While this might have been the year to finally get in and go on a run, I don't think the way the Wild constructed at the end of the year would have done anything. Calgary would be in the second round right now.
I agree with you completely. All right, you brought it up. Tell me about that big call.
Oh, well, I mean, it's just a bad call. I mean, I don't care. Look, you could do the old by the letter of the law. Well, if it's a penalty and then he's bleeding, it's a major. That's look, anybody that's watched hockey at all at a minimum knows that was a horrendous call. It was not a 5-minute major cross-checking. He got him in the chest. It happens on every face-off play in the league. Unfortunately, there was an awful ending to it where he fell awkwardly, and then Stastny helped him down, and then he hit the side and then he hit the ice, and he was just bleeding horrifically, Pavelski. And I wish him all the best. I love the guy. But it's not a major penalty. And then you could be the fan that's like, well, just kill the penalty. You don't have to give up 4 goals. Yes, absolutely. Vegas, there's no excuse that Vegas blows that 3-0 lead there. But they would not have been in that. Vegas Golden Knights, there is no freaking debate about this. If that bad call wasn't made, they'd be in the second round right now. That was a horrendous call. It cost them the series. And how do we know that? Well, the league has apologized to the team. The league has taken the most senior NHL referee, a guy that has called 10 Stanley Cup finals and has essentially booted him off the playoffs, and his cohort who actually made the call. And so there's the accountability. So this isn't a debate. Like the league apologized. The league admitted these refs effed up. The league has gotten rid of the refs, and it's that simple. And but to get to the other point, what an amazing comeback. And the thing that was unbelievable, and again, I was covering Iowa on that night, so I didn't get to see it live really. I saw the Twitter, and then finally in overtime, actually the last 5 minutes of the game, and I had it Game Center on my laptop while I was writing. But I will say, it was like almost a movie type comeback, something that you can make a movie out of. Their leader, their beloved Joe Pavelski, the guy that nobody in the world doesn't like, is down on the ice bleeding from his head. One of his best friends, Joe Thornton, who he's played with forever, picks him up, helps him to the ice, blood pouring out of a towel. Joe Thornton screaming at the bench, you go out and score 3 goals right now. Logan Couture, who I know extremely well, who is incredible friends with Joe Pavelski, scoring that goal, turning to the bench and screaming, that's one, angrily. And then willing them to a comeback by scoring the tying goal as well. I mean, it was unbelievable to watch it. I mean, this is the type of stuff that, holy crap, if I was covering, I would have probably panicked because I'm not a good enough writer to write what's going on right now. This is where I would have been like, please, Souhan, come here and show up and save me, But it was phenomenal. So, anyway.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
A lot more. We're going to get to a lot more about the playoffs and about the Wild and everything else.
Maybe Charlie Coyle will mention.
Yes, we're going to do that. And want to tell you, though, I think we had 67,000 listens for this podcast last month. That's a monster number for a local podcast. You should be advertising.
People must love misery.
You should be advertising with us. If you own a business, if you know somebody who runs a business, you should be advertising with us. A very passionate, large, growing listenership, and that's why Fixology Repair advertises with us. John Hedges, our buddy, told me that they're going to open another shop. They're have something much success because of us. They're opening another shop. This one's going to be in downtown St. Paul. We'll give you more details as that comes along. Probably going to be summer, maybe July or August of 2019. So if you have used this Fixology services downtown Minneapolis in the Skyway or third floor of the Mall of America, you'll now have and you live over in St. Paul or on the east side, you'll have an even more convenient way to go to fixologyrepair.com.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at our 2 locations, Mall of America and the Skyway in downtown Minneapolis. Please visit us at fixologyrepair.com or at FixologyMN on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
All right, so Nino and Coyle advancing.
Yeah, Nino and Coyle advancing. Nino, not a lot of points in the first round, but man, what a resilient Carolina team. Again, I think that the Washington Capitals showed how hard it is. It's very similar to the Pittsburgh Penguins, what I said last week about how sometimes when you win it all, you know how difficult it is that you don't have the energy there. And I think that we saw there that Washington was never able to really get up to the Carolinas' hunger in that series. And you saw it. I mean, the last second half of that game 7 the other night, and especially in overtime, it would have been an absolute injustice if the Carolina Hurricanes didn't win that game. Nino was unbelievable in that game, and especially overtime. And Rob, and I was texting with him immediately after the game, and he told me that on the shift before Justin Williams scored, it was Brock McGinn that scored the goal, but it was Justin threw that nut. Remember, Nino had that unbelievable, it turned to puck over, he forced the giveaway and came in and just snapshot. He thought he had him beat and was almost ready to celebrate. He thought he just had visions of the Wild Game 7 winner. Yep. And, the way the puck came off of the stick and he thought he had him beat. And early first shift of overtime, same thing, cut to the net and close. So he was awesome. And then Charlie Coyle has just become a very important piece on a very good Bruins team. Third line, playing with guys like Johansson, and he's just kind of insulated there. He plays his position. He's not bounced around. He's not asked to be the go-to guy. And what has happened because of it, he's become the go-to guy, coincidentally enough. And it's really amazing to me that here's a guy, he's become the player that the Wild always thought he was and wished he would be. And to me, this now says more about the Wild, is that they cannot figure out a way to turn themselves into a contender where you could take a guy like Coyle, put him in a spot, and get the best out of him. And a perfect example, he's hit 5 goals in 8 playoff games. He had 4 in his last 26 with the Wild. And this is a guy that, he's a gym rat, he works hard, this is a guy that in the 2014 playoffs played with 2 separated shoulders. This is him. And now he's become that player after the Wild get rid of him. And it really is amazing. He scores the tying goal and the overtime goal. And what happens in Minnesota? He's scoring on on shots that are snipes or open nets that in Minnesota, just remember the 2017 playoffs where Pajärvi won it for St. Louis. What happens a minute before that goal? Maybe a couple minutes before that goal. Open net, point blank, goal mouth, puck comes to Coyle. He fans on the shot. And here he goes and he's burying pucks into the open net. It's being Minnesota sports fan. It's not easy, man. So.
The highest praise I can give to Tony Hoagland is that Michael and I both pay for him to be our insurance agent. This is not a advertising trade deal. We actually work with Tony because of the service, because we like him, because they do a great job. I once had an accident driving with my family, and this was a different State Farm agent, but State Farm was great. They made everything easy. And when you get into an accident, when you have to deal with a problem, you want your agent to make everything very easy. Tony Hoagland, Hoaglund.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoagland. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number 1 in car insurance since World War II and number 1 in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
Coincidentally, I talked to them yesterday because I got a new car yesterday. I leased a new car, and I'm driving off the lot, and I'm like, I'm the type of guy that would probably get into an accident right off the lot. So I called while on the lot to change my State Farm to flip out cars. So, everybody that worked for him too is awesome.
Nice and efficient.
Is the one that I deal with a lot there, and she's awesome. And I'm like, for some reason, with all my changes of address the last couple of months, it's been weird. So it's like I've had to call them a good amount of times to get things changed. So.
How was your trip to Iowa? Other than the hockey good. Part, we've already talked about the
hockey
part.
was cool. What was really neat? Besides being at the bar, when I was at the bar and I'm sitting there and I'm talking to her, and in the background over my head is like they're playing songs like "Oh Sherry." Remember Steve Perry?
Yes,
that was my first ever album.
Mine, I think, was Hall & Oates.
Yeah. I had Hall & Oates. I had like Thompson Twins.
Sarah
Madonna.
Smile, I think, was the first single I
did have Hall & Oates, so. Maneater. And then, what was a couple others that I had? But anyway, it's like they're playing that and you start thinking about your childhood. And all of a sudden the bartender's like, here, you guys seem to want shots. And you're like, maybe a shot of Crown Royal. And I'm like, what am I, college?
Okay.
But it was like kind of like
shots are a terrible idea.
Yeah, I know. How the hell did we get on this subject?
I don't know. Hockey in Iowa.
Hockey in Iowa. You know what was really cool was going to the Black Aces practice and seeing, a lot of the players that aren't playing for Iowa right now that are going to be prospects. I mean, the Kovanovs and the Ladnias and the Duheims and the Johanssons and the Shaw. Actually, Shaw's been playing. Unfortunately, he had a major injury last night on a dirty play by Duncan Siemens, who certain columnists in this town ripped the Wild ones for not taking over Jonas Berdeen. Wasn't you. And I'll never forget that. Like, because that's the perfect example. Like it's like even last year when the Wild took Johansson, it's like, I'm not going to sit there and rip it. I've never seen the kid play.
Right.
And same thing is like, you hadn't seen Jonas Brodin play. Oh, we got to take the mean Canadian and Duncan Siemens. And look, Duncan Siemens playing for the freaking Milwaukee Admirals 8 years later. Dirty play, and he's hurt. But who else did we see there? Boca, Sadek, Kakinen, trying to think who else. There were a good amount of Duer players like that, and all these guys are the kind of prospects that are going to be infused into the system here in the next couple of years. So that was cool. The other cool thing is, Philip Johansson. I kind of regret telling the story about how Johan Garpenlov didn't know who he was, who's the Swedish GM. And just talking to him a lot the last couple of days, you just hope the kid makes it. He's such a nice kid, and it's not his fault the Wild took a second or third rounder in the first round. And so there's just this, and he's, if you see him, he's on Instagram, he's on Twitter, so he sees all the stuff. And I'm sure that what I wrote even got back over there, and so he's feeling the pressure, and you just hope that he makes it. And And so that was kind of cool. And then the other thing that was interesting was watching Tim Army bag the heck out of these guys, all these prospects, to kind of show them what pro hockey is all about. And they were buckled on the ice. I've never seen guys just flat on the ground looking like they were going to die, like the amount of guys that were that night. And this isn't anything, you got to put this in context. All these kids, except for Sokolov, which is just another freaking story, that guy. All these kids are kids that came right off the junior ice, right off the college ice, or right off, in Johansson's case, the Euro ice. Well, Johansson hasn't skated in 2 weeks. He's been done. And these other kids are, again, they're coming off like either playoff runs like Duheim, or Ladnia. Like when you same thing in the NHL. Like when you're on a playoff or the deep stretch of the NHL, you're barely practicing. You're definitely not having hard practices. So these guys have been doing this for like a month and a half of Ladnia barely practicing, and all of a sudden you're put onto the ice here, and you gotta do these bag skates. So it's not that they were out of shape. It's that Army did this to them when none of them were ready for it, and so it was hard to watch, man. It was crazy to watch, and I put some Twitter videos and pictures out there if you don't know what I'm talking about. So that was cool. I talked to Duheim. I like that kid a lot. It's part of its bias. I mean, he's from my neck of the woods in South Florida. So I grew up in Boca Raton. He grew up in Parkland. That's the next city over. I grew up basically in Parkland because as a young sports writer, I covered high schools. I covered Broward and Palm Beach County. The biggest high school, northern Broward County, is Douglas High School, where the shooting was last year, and that's where he grew up. His house is, I shouldn't say where, I almost said the community that he lives in. His house is 3 minutes away from Douglas High School. I have a lot of friends that live in his community. Ole Jokinen lives in his community. Roberto Luongo lives in his community in this development. It's right by Douglas. And so his sister went to Douglas. He would have gone to Douglas. So I talked to him about the shooting. And, it was emotional for him. The neighbor across the street from him, he told me, was at the school, is also a hockey player, was at the school at the time of the shooting. He was so traumatized he had to switch high schools. It's just awful. And so it was just finally cool because I've talked to Duheim a couple times via direct message on Twitter. It was finally cool to meet him. And I hope he meets he'd be the 13th, assuming none debut, by the time he debuts, he'd be the 13th Floridian to ever play in the NHL if he makes it. And,
wow.
And there's not a lot that have. I mean, Dan Heino, technically born in Florida, and then, Chikrin that plays for for Arizona. He's from Florida. He's from the same area, Carl Springs, Parkland. Trying to think any others that like big guys. Not too many. So
let's buzz through some Twitter questions.
Yeah.
Shorzy, our friend, said Kaprizov had a birthday today. What is Russo buying him for his birthday?
A chartered plane. I don't know. I put that on